welcome back to my channel. I'm excited to get into a controversial topic that I talk to people about all the time because people love to argue this. And I have also got a lot of people coming to me lately saying that they found me after finding other people's videos about how porn addiction isn't a thing and how they had all these facts for this and all of that. So I'm excited to get into all of this because it's something fun to talk about, I think. So there's a ton of people that will argue both sides, right? That porn addiction isn't a real thing and that porn addiction is a real thing. And everybody has all these studies and facts to back up their points. And then we get nowhere, right? Because people just keep arguing and not listening to each other. And I also feel like everybody's facts they're looking to the people who are trying to back up that point, right? So it's just like the conversation gets nowhere. But when I think about it, I can pull some of those facts too, right? Like I know how porn impacts the brain, and I know studies that have looked into all of that and looked into addiction and looked at defining it more. But that's not even the big piece for me. The big piece for me is the hundreds of people that I've talked to that have come into my office with a serious problem. And I think that's the crucial piece, because if you get so many people coming in and saying, hey, like I can't stop watching porn long enough to hold down a job. I just got fired from my job because I was watching porn at work. Or I have erectile dysfunction now because I can't stop watching porn and that's the only thing that can get me aroused. Or some of the teens that I've worked with, or the young adults that I've worked with, they'll develop like physical issues. They're chafing and bleeding because they can't stop watching porn. All of these also come with social impacts, right? I have so many guys that come to me after saying like, I just want a girlfriend in a normal relationship, but I've cut off all social ties and I can't talk to women. I don't know how to talk to women. I have never been on a date, or rarely been on a date, because I'm not comfortable with actual women. I've developed this habit, and usually this has gone on for years and years and years. Like people will come to me after like 10, 15 years of not going on dates, not having any relationships with real people, but only with their computer. So in that space, am I gonna say, oh well, porn addiction isn't actually a thing, so you're fine. Just go back out there, keep watching it, no big deal. Of course I'm not gonna say that, right? And the diagnosing piece isn't even the piece that means anything or matters here, I don't think. If someone comes to you with a problem and they have a real problem, you help them fix it. You don't tell them what it is or isn't, you just help them, right? And if somebody does come to me and they don't actually have a porn addiction, then I'll help them work through that too. But that has really never happened. Maybe twice. Like I can think of 2 times off the top of my head that that's happened out of hundreds of others. And that there is an argument there in conservative communities. Like I've done a lot of work in Utah, and Utah's a very conservative, anti-porn, anti-masturbation, anti-sex before marriage type of community. So a lot of the guys, or everybody, will get shamed for engaging in any of this. So if a guy is masturbating and looking at porn occasionally and they develop this serious shame and think they have a porn addiction from that, I'm gonna help them work through and look at, okay, well, what is an actual addiction? Like, how often are you watching? Can you stop if you wanted to? How is it impacting you? And if those things aren't there and it's not actually negatively impacting them, then that's not an addiction, and I'll help them work through that and help them come into their own, being in their own sexuality in a healthy way. So I'm not gonna just assign everybody that comes in, but that is the rare case. Because if you're driven enough to talk to a therapist or a stranger about this, then you probably have a problem, because it's not comfortable. No one likes to come and talk about this. It's often with a lot of shame and a lot of guilt and a lot of just bad that's built up over the years. And it's not comfortable and it's not easy to work on. But people get to a point where they're like, I can't do this anymore. Like, this is not working for me anymore. it's impacting my relationships that I already have, or it's impacting me getting a new relationship, it's impacting me physically, I feel bad about myself, like all of that, that's a problem. And it's funny to me when people still try to like say, well, that can't be an addiction because of blah, 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 blah. But then what are you gonna say to my client who comes to me and is watching for hours and hours and hours and hours and hours a day and not talking to anyone else? Are you gonna say like that's fine? Or maybe like they do need some help and they do need to adjust some things. And we don't even have to attach a label to it, and we don't have to say that you have an addiction. Maybe we say that you have a problem that needs to kind of get under control a little bit more, and I want to put the control back with you and not with this thing, right? And that's really how I feel about everything. I'm not a person who enjoys diagnosing or does it just freely or on a whim, because it is a serious thing, and I think it has to help you to have the diagnosis. So if that doesn't help you to have the diagnosis and you don't gain power from that, then we're not going to diagnose you, but we're going to help you get control back and feel better and just get back into the life and the person that you want to be. So that's kind of where I go with that. And I like these discussions. I like to hear all sides. I feel like in the scheme of things, I'm actually kind of in the middle of a lot of this, because I am not anti-porn, and I don't think everybody who watches porn has a problem. So I'm kind of in the middle, right? And I'm also not going to say porn is fine, like everyone watch it, there's no way it can be a problem. That's not true either. So I think it's something that, like a lot of things, needs to be you have to be able to make the decision about it, which means it should be something that you get into when you're a little bit older, although I don't think that happens very often. But an issue that I have with it is it's being marketed more and more to kids, and that I think is a problem. Because if you're super young and you're looking at really intense porn, that is gonna mess with you, and mess with your view of sex and relationships and all of that, right? So that I do have an issue with. But I also know plenty of people who watch porn and are totally fine with it. They don't have a problem. So yeah, that is kind of my overall feeling on this. I've worked with too many people and really understood and helped people through this way too many times to ever say that this isn't a problem and this isn't a thing. It is, and it's starting earlier and earlier, and it's getting more and more intense because of the amount of porn and the intensity of porn that we have. So I mean, my probably more extreme cases, they'll develop fetishes to really bad things that lead them to want to do that. Like they're super addicted to rape porn and start to fantasize about doing that non-consensually, and maybe even start doing that non-consensually because they started watching this and feeding that at such a young age. So I've worked with people like that. And obviously that's not everybody, that's not the thing, but the consensual piece and the real human interaction piece, that's a big thing that gets lost here. So if you start watching this when you're really young, or I work with a lot of kids who have autism and that gets confusing because social interactions are already confusing, then this can lead to some serious problems. So I think we have to be focusing on healthy sexual relationships and identities, and really building ourselves up and building people up so they can interact and engage as they want to, and they can explore and they can do whatever they want, but that needs to be within a consensual context, right? And it needs to be in a way that's not taking over their whole life in a negative way. If you really are into something and like something, that's great. But if it's taking over to your life to the point that you can't have a job or a relationship, well, that's a problem, right? So figuring that out, I think, is really important, and talking about this more is important. Opening up space where people can share and be like, this is a problem for me, or you know, I have an issue with this, or any of that, I think is really important. So yeah, feel free to comment. This always gets some interesting comments and emails for sure, because everyone gets kind of heated about it. But you can comment below, reach out to me, check out my website. You can submit questions on there or ask whatever you want. Yeah, I'm here to talk about this. So those are my thoughts, and I'm interested in getting this conversation going more, guys. All right, have a good day.